It's connecting. Well, how is it going, you guys? Hopefully, you had a wonderful day. And if you didn't, I hope this content brings you around. Yes, this is In His Hands. This is Sky Falling. And this is my lovely wife. We are going to be talking about some pretty fun things today. We're going to be going over James. Just a little bit of, you know, I don't know, faith, reading your Bible, actually doing what it says and stuff. I don't know if we'll actually get to that, but we will be doing it. It's kind of off the cuff, trying to figure out life, But this is what we're going to do. Once again, this is Justina. You can go ahead and say hi and hello and whatnot.
Hey, hi, hello, whatever and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly, right? We don't even know who's watching. And if you are watching, welcome. And for those that watch it later, welcome. So this is exactly right. So this is gonna be like really raw thoughts on James. I've gone over this years and years ago, and it's gonna be kind of awesome because it's gonna help me kind of conclude James chapter 1, 26 to 27. But it's gonna be kind of fun because we're gonna be throwing ideas back and forth.
Oh, 26 or
We're
27?
not gonna be doing 26 to 27 today, but we
I
are.
was like, oh, I read and like had all these notes, not like notes, mental notes for the top part, the beginning of the chapter.
What about James a servant? Okay, James a servant. We're gonna be talking about James a
First
servant.
of all,
That's
these introductions are important.
yeah. No, I agree.
And
I agree.
so watch yourself. I did like a whole Bible study on just the introduction of one, so just like
No,
chill out.
I am the person that loves just following one verse, so it is not gonna be that big of a deal. But
Sounds like we're not gonna go
we
anywhere.
will go somewhere. We no, I know. I mean, what 5 years now? 5 years in James, no big deal.
Okay, well, there has been loads of moves.
Yeah, it's
Big
tons and tons of
mistakes.
stuff.
Had another kid, jobs, all sorts of nonsense. Been a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff you guys don't know. If you want to get caught up, hit me up. Let me know. Maybe we can.
Shoot us a call.
Yeah. But what are your first thoughts when you think of James?
I I always think you suck and you need Jesus.
You suck and you need Jesus.
That's like, I used to say this when we were kids. James, you want to like be convicted or whatever, and just be like, man, you suck. You need Jesus. You're welcome. Good night. Like read
Sure.
James, do what it says. Stop messing around.
So whenever I think of James, like the first thing that pops into my head is that this is the perfect book to slap other believers around with. I'm not a controversial guy, but
That's not true.
if you if you say you're a believer, I'm gonna throw the Bible at you. Okay. And I expect the same thing. Yeah, yeah, ready hands. Ready hands. So that's what I think of when I think of James. Also First John, but we're not getting into that.
Think about Romans, like the first five
Romans.
chapters. You're like,
Romans is too much. You
put
literally
someone
you
down.
have to go verse by verse. You have
I
to.
am doing that with my friend
Good
Lillian. If
luck.
she's not watching, yeah, and it's already been challenging. Just the first couple of verses are just like, wow, wow, wow.
One thing we didn't check whether or not it is going to be picking up my voice, but it isn't. It doesn't look like. Like I said, just first time trying to get these things done. Just want to see how it is. See if we can pull anybody, get some discussion going. But James chapter 1. James chapter 1. How does it start? What do you know about James in general? Like the beginnings, the starts.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
You're gonna make you look really bad.
No, what do you know? I mean, I haven't
Wow, Chris,
I
good
haven't
job
studied this in like
teaching your
forever.
wife.
I know, right? Why would you even put that out there? I do a good job of teaching my wife, okay? Jeez.
Um, is so I'm just gonna start with a question.
Ask questions.
Is this James Jesus's brother
Ooh, is it
from birth?
his birth brother?
Brother from obviously he's a son of God and Mary was the vessel and all the jazz, but then like after because Joseph wouldn't with his wife until she had Jesus. And so James is the brother of Jesus, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
That's what I do know. Then I didn't want to say it
and if
absolute and then look like a dummy.
and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section because I'm pretty sure it is James' brother. But
Brother.
yeah. So the interesting thing about James, this book of James, is that James wasn't converted until the resurrection of Christ. But there's two different camps. You have one camp that says before the resurrection, James started believing, and then the other camp that says after the resurrection is when James started believing, which is, I think, quite interesting.
That sounds like it makes more sense.
I'm in the camp that afterward, because in Acts you start seeing James kind of taking this larger role, for who knows what reason, because Jesus said Peter should take that role, but James is kind of looked at as a person that was skeptical and then started believing. So whenever I guess there were doubts that were thrown around, he was kind of the guy they looked at. But this is just my thought process. I don't know exactly, but in Acts it does talk about that.
I don't know. It feels like Acts is when the Spirit came, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I could, and this is obviously all my thoughts and just, pulling from, the air here.
Just pulling from there.
I could only assume that he, like, holy cow. But holy cow, there's Jesus back. Now he probably comes full circle. This makes so much more sense. Then the Spirit comes, and now he's taking on this role. Like it sounds like the Spirit's work personally. And then when you read James, and it's not like fluffy, if you will. It's just kind of like, hey, like this is what it is. You are welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean he has a really interesting quest. Let's see. So I'm just pulling up real quick. James, St. James, the apostle of the Lord's brother, and this is from www.Berkana or Berticana, or I know the word, but it's just not coming to my head. .com, okay? So James was the son of Zebedee. After Peter fled Jerusalem, this is Acts 12, 1 through 7, he was the chief spokesman for Jerusalem church. See, that's what I mean by like he took on a bigger role.
Did you say son of Zebedee? Because that's obviously not son of Joseph.
I know. Interesting, right? And there's two different things that are coming from that. So let's see. Yeah, no, absolutely. Good point. No, get away from me. No one wants that. So it says, James, son of Zebedee, after Peter fled Jerusalem in Acts 12, 1 through 2, he was chief spokesman for Jerusalem at the Church of the Council of Jerusalem, according to Paul's mission to the Gentiles. Acts 15, 13, and final visit to Jerusalem, Acts 21, 18. It also does say St. James, also called James, the Lord's brother, died in 62 AD Jerusalem. A Christian apostle according to St. Paul, although not one of the original 12 apostles, he was a leader in Jerusalem Christians, who with St. Peter, John, the evangelist, is one of the pillars of the church. It does suggest that it is his brother, and also suggests that it isn't. But maybe this son of Zebedee is just what they call them. You have and yeah, you go ahead and look it up. So, like I said, it's gonna be raw. It's gonna be freaking raw. We're just gonna get into it. Yar. Gospel of the one of James, Matthew, James, Jesus' brother. Let's see. James eventually was not a follower of Jesus during the public ministry. So this is what I was talking about. Paul attributed James' later conversion to the appearance of Christ's resurrection. That's also what I talk about. It says 1 Corinthians 15:7. So I know my stuff. I just don't know where it is. I know I have it. I'm like that grandma or the mom that's like, I know I have it,
That's my mom.
but I just don't know where it is. I just
That's
know
my
I
mom,
have it.
and she'll never say she
Never
doesn't know
say.
where it is, but she'll say like, "We have it," and it's a famous word. My dad, it drives my dad nuts, and it's so good because you'll be like, "Mom, you know that thing I had when I was a kid and all this stuff," and she was like, "We have it,"
Yeah.
and I'm like,
So you better ask her for
what
those
does
Power
that
Rangers
mean?
figurines.
Do we have it like I can have it right now, or do we have it like should I hit you up in a week? Like, what,
But
what
she
do you
probably
need?
still has it.
And hands down, she has.
And she ain't never gonna find it.
When we first got married, who like furnished our kitchen? Furnished, built our kitchen.
Furnished,
My mom
yeah.
did. You know why?
First.
Had it.
So 3 years after Paul's conversion, James was an important leader in the Jerusalem Council. This is Galatians 1:18 through 19, where he assumed even more significance after King Herod Agrippa the first of Judea Judea in about AD 44, beheading of the apostle Saint James and Zebedee. Oh, okay, so misquote. So the Saint James, the son of Zebedee, is not the same James that it is talking about. So James, the brother of Jesus, took the larger role after this apostle was beheaded. The son of Zebedee, that James.
We have like 2 Johns, James. Sounds good.
Yeah.
We're,
So I was right. I don't know why I doubt myself. I don't know.
you were right. I was less right.
Yeah. So getting back to this.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry.
Question. Go.
Where is the link to this video?
Where is the link to this video?
How are people supposed to see this?
I can send it, or people can look it up.
Where?
In his hands.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
It's live streaming right now. We are live streaming
On YouTube.
on TubeU.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, friends. Slowly but surely, I will get there.
All right. So once again, this is Britannica. There's a specific thing. So it's www.britannica.com. Biography, St. James, the Lord's brother. That is what I'm looking up. That is the information that I'm pulling of a quick Google search on James. So right now, I've been reading Revelations. So there might be some stuff that I might say that is according to John, that is not according to James. Because I was just about to say he's on the island of Patmos. No, that's John. I'm doing research for a study that I'm doing. But let's go ahead and look at James. Now, just real quick, I'm going to read James chapter 1, verse 1. We have James, a servant of God and the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes in dispersion. Greetings.
It says, James, a servant of God, of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. Greetings.
So, these lovely pictures behind me are sound panels, but there's still an echo in here.
That's driving me nuts.
Nah, and so this is kind of setting up everything. So first thing we see is dispersion. So what's going on? Why are they dispersed? We can get into a lot, but
Well, here's the answer.
my beliefs is that this dispersion is due to the persecution of the church because of Nero. If this book is written about like 42 to 47 AD or a little bit beyond that, there's a huge what is that word? When people go through trials and tribulations because of their beliefs and they're getting persecution. That is the word I can't think of it. Yeah, persecution. No, absolutely 100%. So because of Nero, they're going through all this persecution. You should really look up and read up on Nero. I mean, he's a freaking crazy guy. He didn't do this because he hated everybody. He did it because he was getting in trouble, which was super weird. What are you doing there, bud? She wants her Bible on my desk. She wants her Bible that is on my desk. Okay? Okay, so I would definitely recommend listening and watching videos on Nero, just because this guy was handed a lot of authority, and one way he got out of all the problems and destruction that he caused is by blaming on not only the Christians but also the Jews. So there was a lot of persecution, there was a lot of dispersion. So it's talking about the dispersion of the 12 tribes. Now, whether or not there's 12 tribes, I have no idea. So from there, speaking about the 12 tribes, why would he be saying that? So I would assume, since he was held as one of the counselors for the Jerusalem, that he was talking to people that were converting from Judaism into Christianity, or I don't think they're called the Judaizers. They might be. So he's talking to people that understand the Old Testament, understand the Torah, the Tanakh, understand who the founding fathers of Judaism is.
Are
I don't know.
founders are.
So he reaches out to them and tells them these things. Persecution, we have dispersion because of that, and we have these 12 tribes, which kind of clues us in that there are converted Jews. Now going to verse 2. You have any questions? Any concerns?
I
What's up?
don't have any questions.
Any thoughts?
I
Bouncing thoughts.
this Bible is my Reformed
Oh,
Bible. I said it. And it says practically what you just said. So I don't know if you're just saying this off the cuff here.
Up the dome.
Good job.
Not me.
Version originally referred to those Jews who had been scattered at the time of exile throughout the Near East and then later into Europe and Africa.
Yep.
Here James is using the language to refer to Christians, whether ethnically Jews or Gentile. By doing so, James places the church in the context of the story of Israel, because Israel is now redefined in the terms of Jesus Christ, and the true
Interesting.
Israel is the church comprising Jewish and Gentile believers in Christ. Some having suggested that by speaking of the church as the dispersion, James is reversing, the connotation that of the word of that word. So whereas the first dispersion was the act of judgment, but the second dispersion is the means by which God is blessing the nations through the.
Yeah, so right there you can see. So
I don't know who did the commentary.
number one, first off, they are preaching, from what I can tell. Please abuse me in the comment section, because they're showing that this idea of dispensationalism isn't there, and it's kind of unusual because, I mean, obviously those are notes from a Reformed Bible, so it's not going to kind of like go into that, but by it saying that under Jesus there is a new Israel, right? Because that's what it said, right?
That's what it said.
Yeah, that whether you're Jew, Greek, Gentile, which Romans says, I don't know, we're under Christ. Therefore, we are part of Israel. We are Israel. We are the new Israel. So it's kind of interesting. But that's from a reformist view. Now, for those that are dispensational, please leave it in the comment section down below. Let me know. I don't know a lot about dispensationalism. I know some. I know the general stuff. I want to dive more into it later. But
Later.
yeah, later.
Talk about that.
Another interesting thing, this dispersion that they're talking about is in Acts. So what was supposed to happen is Christ reveals himself after the resurrection, and then they had a month to kind of collect themselves. But after this month, they stayed together in this one group. So Christ caused this like dispersion. So that's kind of what it's like leading into, because they weren't supposed to just stay in Jerusalem. They're supposed to go out and share the gospel with the world. So one, you get this persecution that causes them to spread out, and two, you get the proliferation. I can't talk right now. The message just going out. It's proliferating. just being spread out. So that's kind of what it's going into. Interesting. I didn't put those two thoughts together.
Sproul did apparently.
Yeah, he's freaking genius. He's that guy. He had everything on lock.
Now he's with Jesus.
Every time he talked, any subject he talked about, it was exactly the same in every time he talked about it. Every word, exactly the same. So you watch one video of him talking about, the love of God, and you watch another video where he kind of gets into the love of God. There's no word change. He says the same thing. It's freaking crazy. I don't know. Maybe.
Anywho,
Yeah.
anywho.
Bring it back together, right? So he's talking to people that understand the word, people that know what happened. He's talking to Jerusalem. Therefore, with the 500 that go around saying they seen Jesus, they understand what happened. Verse 2. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Go. What are your thoughts? Quick fire.
There are some things. Consider it pure joy. I know that like being in Christ gives you joy and joy complete,
Mhm.
right? Like that's like the biblical language. Well, and whenever you face trials of many kinds, currently we have a ginormous hole in our ceiling, and there's water coming in from outside, obviously.
Very true.
It rains and it's monsoon season, and that's a thing here. And man, is it so easy to fret. Chris got sent out like a million times today and didn't get home until really late. And my floors are sticky.
Oh, jeez.
Like first world problems are gonna be 100% their first problems. And there's just things there, and there's bigger things. And it is so easy to just not consider these things joy. And all I can say is like snows, and like there's a moment where I want to be Hades and my hair is on fire and stuff. But anywho, and because you know that testing of your faith produces perseverance, and all I can see here is like a mirror of myself,
Myself.
and it just says like quitter. I'm a quitter. I'm a quitter.
By nature.
By nature, I'm a quitter. I don't want to work hard, and I don't want to persevere. I don't care. I don't care to be. I don't care. It's just all my flesh. Like I just don't care. Whatever. It's cool for them, but it's not cool for me. I don't want it. I don't care for it. And that's a lame way to live, but it's a thing. I'll tell you. I've quit everything until I got married to Chris, and
It's her fault. It's her fault.
I love him. And then let perseverance finish its work, that you may be mature and complete and not lacking in anything. Man, there are a lot of children in my house right now, and we are loving it. It's been pretty great. Also, the conversations that I have to have, like, it's too hard and I don't want to do it. And I say this because my kid says it. And it's like it's like it's me before the Lord just like took my hard heart and started make it malleable and started fixing that, and like man, all I could see is myself, and I'm like, if you give up, you will never grow. If you give up, you will never. I asked my son what type of man he wants to be. Do you want to be a good man, a godly man, or do you want to be a lazy man, a cheating man, a slothful man? All these things.
Scary.
I want to be a good man. And so these are the things that we talk about, where it's like, bro, if you like too much and I don't want to deal with that, like you're not going to be a good man. But ouch. Yeah, I don't want to be lacking it. I don't want to be like, oh God, your gifts are good, but I want to settle for fill in the blank. I don't want to be lacking in anything. I want to be mature.
Mature.
Mature. But it's just like just 2 verses, 3 verses right here. Just like real quick. It is a good thing when we persevere through the struggles. We can call it joy because the result is that we will be mature and lacking in nothing. Amen. Good night. We're going to sleep.
Lacking in nothing.
That's it. I'm done.
So
Wrap it.
mature, complete, lacking in nothing. Those are like the words I really want to kind of stick on and
Yeah.
speak on, is because
Yeah.
I don't think those things are right now.
You don't think why? Why do you have to like? Stop.
I'd have to. I have to, because those are really specific words. Perfect, complete. Would you say you're perfect?
No.
Would you say you're complete?
No.
Do you lack things?
I'm a lacking
Yes.
a whole heck of a lot.
So, with those thoughts, I think it's talking about when we run this good race and we're at the end of the race and we complete the race, we will be perfect. We will be complete. We will lack nothing. Because it tells
You
us,
still consider the current
yeah, you consider it pure joy because of these things.
because this will be the end.
These testings will get us there.
Now, I'm not saying okay that like I'm perfect.
I'm not saying you're
and
wrong.
Nothing, that's not real, obviously. But like, I know that the sanctification, we're only. You're 30. I'm almost 30.
I am 30.
We have so much more life.
Thank you. I was going to reveal that after 100
Sorry, friends.
100 people subscribed.
Saying, like,
My age.
I feel like we've grown so much, and then I think about the life ahead of us, and I'm like,
So much. There's so much more.
It's gonna be so much of counting pure joy, homie.
Not for real.
And as we grow years, we will become more mature, right? Like the trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll just be on that.
Hopefully. It's a mountain. We're climbing mountains.
Yes, we will trip and we will fall. We will have those years and seasons and years and years and years. It happens. But that's not the point. The point is that in the depression and in the weird limbo areas and in all this jazz and in all the testing and our roof falling apart and all sorts of nonsense, we can literally count it joy. We can say like it is well, literally.
Yeah. So another thing to kind of throw a wrench in your spoke. So what I think James
That's
is,
why we don't read the Bible
this
together.
is what I think James is talking about here is, count all joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Steadfastness having its full effect, which I'm talking about will happen later on, that you may be complete, perfect, and lacking nothing. I think he is specifically addressing those people at that time and the testing that they're going through, because right now people are, number one, they're backtracking. They're wanting to go back to their old ways. And James is slapping them down, telling them, hey, I know you're going through all this. We are being maybe persecuted more than the Jews of the time. But don't fall back on those old practices. Let's persevere. I know there's a bunch of stuff that's going on. Persevere, because these things, will produce steadfastness. And from the steadfastness, well, it'll take its full effect and you'll be complete, lacking nothing. And also, number two is that they saw everything that was taking place with Jesus Christ. And they're like, in the back, I guess, of James' mind, you could say he was thinking like, I wanted to be there. I should have been this. It should have happened to me. I wish I could be there with him going through these things. So he's like, count it pure joy. You are taking this burden that Christ says we will have on. And you are now walking with Christ in this persecution that he was talking about it. Hey, the world, if the world knows you and likes you, that means you're of the world. But when it doesn't, it's because you're of me. Because I went through all these things, you will also go through all these things. So there's two things. Number one, there's a lot of persecution. People are going back to their older religion. Number two, you get to follow in the footsteps of Christ and kind of be put through some of the stuff that he went through. Those are my thoughts. I don't know if it's true. I don't know. I don't know. Thoughts on my thoughts? It's a lot, right?
I mean, this is why I love, like, I have found a love, but you've been so graciously patient
I have
with
not.
me. Okay, this is true. He just stopped talking about it. Let me not give you any, just like, let me not build you up at all,
No,
obviously.
I don't need to be built up.
He has not been graciously patient, but has stopped bothering me about it. And here I am, come full circle to love to go verse by verse and count how many words
I
are
know.
in every sentence and how many times they put a comma to pause and all the nonsense.
I don't know about that.
And read verse by verse. There's just so much. There's so many things that I've missed over the years. And now that I am woke.
No.
Uh,
No.
I
Strike that from the record.
opened.
Strike that from the record.
Reading verse by verse is just so edifying. So, anywho,
No, it's really interesting because like if you think about them backtracking to their old ways, going forward, reading these verses, it means so much more. Because we're gonna get to a verse where it's telling them, you know, you can hear the word, but putting it into practice is a whole different thing, and that's the things you should be doing.
right, hearers and doers.
Now,
right,
you
right.
say you're a Christian, but when you get into the world, you're not. And verse, I believe, 27 says, take care of the orphans and the widows. Let me go there real quick. Wait.
Between 44 AD.
Yeah, see, I was close.
You're on it. You're on it.
Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and the widow and to keep oneself unstained from the world. So unstained. So having these two different lives. It's also going to talk about double-mindedness, which kind of plays a part of what was going on at that time, them proceeding back into their old ways. But yeah.
Mhm.
So it touches upon having this idea of what's going on, touches upon these verses and what they truly meant in their time. And then you can always bring it forward into what's going on in your own life. Yeah. That's only a couple verses. It's,
Yeah, I
we're already like an hour in. No, 30 minutes in.
Like, we need to hit on that verse 5 though.
Verse 5.
And I should have.
Go ahead, read it.
I'm really annoyed with myself. I should have added this into my blog post.
Mm.
And I'm just, shameless.
It's okay.
BereanWoman.com.
Yeah, it's true.
For all you ladies.
It's real.
I should have put this in the blog post, and it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. And that's the NASB 1995. And here in my ESV, it says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him.
Yeah, I'm reading ESV. I
didn't know if it was the
no,
same or
no.
not.
I just pulled up whatever came up in ESV came up. I was like, sick. Whatever.
It's a thing. I know that it could be so scary to ask God for something. Like, old pastors from a church that I grew up in was like, don't ask God for patience. He's gonna give you a whole bunch of situations to be patient in. And I'm like, now knowing who God is, I'm like, Lord, give me patience because I'm in a situation and I need you right now, and I need you because I suck and I am not strong enough to try to do this on my own, thinking like I'm mature enough or whatever. But like, wisdom, what a beautiful thing to be wise.
Yeah.
And you can just ask and God will just give it to you, and you don't have to sit here and be like, I worked so hard, Lord, now please, I have some wisdom. Like, you don't have to treat God and like barter with him.
Yeah, not a bartering system.
Right.
Well, I mean, we don't have anything of worth, so.
have nothing. That's absolute. But you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I see things in such a plain, simple way, and the Lord bless me with Christopher, because I'm like this.
They don't
it
even
just
know my
seems-
name.
It just seems so. It just seems so simple that it's not. That makes it's just too easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And ask God. You may not like what wisdom actually feels like when you're like,
Continue the verse.
sorry,
There's
guys.
no. You can keep not rambling. That sounds so rude. You can keep going.
Wow.
No,
Mm.
I mean,
You should
but there's
listen.
more to the verse. If you're gonna go into verse 5, you have to continue into verse 6,
No,
which
and I
leads
did
into
touch on
verse
that.
7 and then goes into verse 8.
God is not going to sit here and be like, oh, but you're not worthy of wisdom. And he's not going to find all this fault and nonsense in you. He's going to give it to you. And then it says, but when you ask, here we are, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave in the sea, blown and tossed in the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. In all they do.
Interesting. So this kind of real quick, if you guys have any questions, I see there's one viewer. I don't know who you are. Say hi.
Hi.
Just if you have any questions, just interrupt. Ask. We have everything up. Your question will be seen, hopefully. But interesting part about this, yes, it tells you to ask. It says he gives generously. He doesn't look into whether or not you've earned it. But it also says you shouldn't doubt. Now, something I really want to harp on is there's one person in the Bible specifically says they doubt. And that was Thomas, the doubter, He doubted.
Was foretold there'd be a doubter.
Yeah. It's Owls of Nunningham or something like that. It's a movie. With Thomas doubting, Christ didn't say, how dare you, or you don't deserve this, or anything like that. There's two different doubts that it's talking about here. There's a doubting that's like, I'm going to ask because it says to ask, but I'm not going to believe that it's going to be received. And then there's a doubting of, I'm going to look into the word and see where it says that I should do this. Like, I doubt, let's see, how God works in mysterious ways. It's not wrong to think that, but it's wrong to go into it saying, this is fact. I'm not going to do anything about it. It's just fact. You're being double-minded. You say you're a believer, which believing means to know that Christ is risen from the dead and that everything he said is true and everything that occurred is right and that he's fulfilled all these things. To believe, to not have any doubts. But if you believe that, there's our baby. Going into this whole doubting section, there's two different ones.
I say that the doubter is doubting who God is and who he says he is in his word.
Yeah.
And like saying like you shouldn't doubt. So it's like, I'm gonna ask and be like, yeah, but God, I'm just small potatoes and God has bigger fish to fry, and so forget it. Like he's not gonna actually come at me or come to save me or come to help me. That's not real. And like that seems like a little I don't know.
Is that ours? Yeah. That's hilarious. But yeah. So this whole doubting thing. It's okay to have doubts, but it's not okay to question who God is. In a sense that when he says something that you will have, or that you should have, or that you have this mask on saying you believe, that is not right. That is not okay. That is not the right doubting. But I have doubts in my life all the time when I go to read the word, but I go and I try to search the word. I try to be a Berean, or like just, saying, plugging in the Berean woman, to actually search the word and try to understand. Those people would be considered doubting, would they not? I doubt that that said it, or I doubt that this happened. But yeah, I don't know. Just some thoughts. But another interesting part is this whole double-mindedness. Um, because it's scary. To be double-minded is to have not just one foot in the world and one foot in the kingdom. It's to literally split yourself to like manifest something else, to live two separate lives. It's not like this person is split. They are literally having two different lives. You wouldn't say, "Oh, that person is living a split life." He's living or she's living two different lives. So this double-mindedness is literally a person that says they're a believer, but they don't walk in that sense. And just going back to the doubting, is that person that looks at the world and says, the world says this, so why would I believe that God's going to do this? Yeah.
I don't know. Double-mindedness seems a little like minded. Like you say one thing and then you turn around and you say something else. You know what I mean? I don't like not saying like and obviously I agree with what you're saying and whatnot. I just think that like this person that's like, I'm gonna ask and the Lord is gonna bless me, and then in the same breath, you're still like, but I'm going to do everything that I can because I'm powerful and I am strong and I am able to do all these things in the name of God, right? And like you just kind of weirdly tack Jesus onto your thoughts. If that makes any sense.
Like it's Jesus is an afterthought.
Like, but initially, right, it was like, God's gonna bless me, God's gonna get me through this because, and then you have like this left field, but I'm gonna make it happen.
So you put yourself in God's position.
Like, so like God is not like a real, I don't like to say person because that's not a person, right? But not like real, you know, like I don't know how to, you don't trust who he is, you don't trust who he says he is, you don't trust in his sovereignty, you don't trust in all these things because in one breath you're saying like, yeah, God's gonna provide, God's gonna fix this, God's gonna blah 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 blah, and then turn around to say, but like whether or not God does this, I'm gonna make this happen, you know, like weird left field nonsense, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just what double mind like to me.
I definitely hear you in that. I see what you're saying, and I can agree with that. It's a person that's playing two different positions. When they're with believers, they go about doing the things that they see is going on, and then when they're not, they're doing what the world is doing, which kind of concludes, and that's why, like, as we move on, going to verse 26 through 27, we're going to talk about two different people. You have the believer and the zombie, I like to call them, the living dead. They act like they're alive in Christ, but they're not. They're dead because they don't have that faith. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting thoughts. And we will not get into verse 9. Verse 9 is going to be, verse 9 through 11 is going to be like a video in itself. Because there's a lot to unpack and a lot to try to understand. But if you guys have any questions or any thoughts or any concerns or any videos, like topics you guys want to go over, please let us know. Because I love doing these things. And I'm glad I was able to get this out. I mean, it's 44 minutes.
Watch it on 2 times the speed.
Yeah,
What?
it's 20 minutes, man. Sometimes people spend 20 minutes in the bathroom. And if you don't, well, I am a unicorn.
You spent 20 minutes in the bathroom.
No, probably not that much, but
Are you talking about going to the bathroom
Yeah.
or getting ready?
Getting ready too. Jeez, you can be brushing your teeth. It takes me like 7 minutes to brush my
Such a
teeth.
weirdo, guys. He brushes his teeth twice.
Just it's life. But thanks. I was gonna reveal that after 500. No.
I'm just saying, like, you're
Yeah.
so
I'm
weird.
particular. I'm not weird. I'm particular. Okay.
Yeah, he's like, you want them to be good.
So like,
I ain't got time for that.
James is really interesting for the very fact that he's a person that doubted Christ, his own brother. I mean, I can only imagine what James was thinking when Christ is like, I am the Son of God. And he's like, "You stinking guy." Or like, if it, like, okay, to kind of put, I'm the youngest. So if like my sister said anything remotely close to that, which she'd be, see, I'm already like, yeah, right. You know? So imagine like James, imagine James just like, okay, guy, like, you seriously have issues and you should probably focus more on Judaism. And I see you walking around with these guys. That's cool. But there was like a guy like 20 years ago that did the same thing. So what's going on, brother? And then
I wondered about that. Like, why are you hanging out with these people? You're making our family look bad.
literally it talks about so the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Pharisees, that's not a real one, said that like, oh, we don't have to worry about this Jesus guy. It's gonna pass away. It's gonna be a fad. Like those people about like 20 years ago that did the same thing, and like when he died, they all scattered. They ain't want nothing to do with him. So that's why I bring it up. So like, I could see James just throwing this in his face. And then for Christ to actually follow through with all these things and then resurrect and then hear about all these people saying they seen him and him seeing him. And now he's like, why didn't I see this happening? I mean, even his mom was like, I mean, man, there's so many things, so many thoughts. But it's interesting because he doubted. And now he's talking about, hey, if you're going to ask, don't doubt. In the sense that, like, there's no way it could happen. Or in a sense that you're not in belief. You are just going through motions. It's pretty crazy. Because then you're double minded. And you don't want to be double minded because it's going to go into some real crazy stuff about being double minded.
No, I can barely just keep my one mind straight. Can't do it. Double minded seems like double the work.
Yeah. But
double the nonsense.
That is James 1 verses 1 through 8. 1 through 8. Once again, I appreciate you guys stopping in. As you can see, we have In His Hands and we have Sky Falling. Sky Falling is something else I'll be getting into. It is me playing video games, answering questions. I don't really answer a lot of questions because I don't get a lot of people watching, but that's not a big deal. Whatever. I'm not like mad about it or anything like that. But also I'm gonna be going into like a lot of controversial stuff, pulling up a lot of information regarding topics that don't typically like to be talked about, especially when it comes to, like, government stuff and aliens, encryptids, just because I like that stuff. I really want to dive into. So that's going to be a channel you can always go subscribe and ask questions if you might have any questions about aliens and how they go with the Bible, because I'll be talking about the Bible there too. But Bigfoot's real? Okay. Yeah.
Here we go, friends.
So I appreciate you guys stopping in. Don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell. Muy importante. So you can be notified when In His Hands or Sky Falling goes live. And you can find a link for Sky Falling in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next one.
In the skies.
Like always, one love. That's Bob Marley, by the way.